I didn't love her. Not at first. I loved what she represented: power, escape, the lie that I could finally matter. That's the truth no one ever hears. When people talk about love, they like to romanticize the chemistry, the passion, the stardust. But me? I fell in love with the idea of not struggling. Of waking up in silk sheets instead of polyester ones that itch like shame. Her name was Abigail Monroe. The kind of woman who didn't need to explain her last name. It already bought her space in boardrooms, gallery openings, and Forbes articles. The first time I saw her, she was wearing this backless navy dress that looked like it cost more than my entire student loan debt. She was standing under white gallery lights, sipping something from a crystal flute. I was there by accident. My boss got food poisoning, and I was sent to deliver blueprints to some pompous sculptor with a god complex. Abigail mistook me for the lead architect. And I didn't correct her. She smiled at me like I belonged in that room. That one smile bought me 30 minutes of conversation and 2 months of delusion. She liked my grit. Said I was different from the men she was used to. She meant men who owned hedge funds and winter homes in Aspen. I played along. She started inviting me to places. Lunches turned into dinners, which turned into weekends in Vermont. I watched myself shape-shift, trying to fit into a world that was never built for me. Designer suits on credit. Brunch orders I could barely pronounce. The silent panic every time the check came. But still, I stayed. There was a sick thrill in it. Like stealing time from a reality that always looked down on me. Her friends side-eyed me. Her father never even acknowledged me. Her mother once asked if I was the new trainer. I didn't care. Because when Abigail touched my face and whispered, "You ground me," I believed, just for a second, that I was more than a placeholder. Then, everything changed. She started pulling back. Calls got shorter. Her laugh started sounding restrained. Like she was checking herself, censoring what used to come freely. One night, she canceled a dinner I spent 3 days planning. Said she had a family thing. I saw the photos the next morning. Her. And him. Clayton Voss. Her ex-hedge fund royalty. He looked like someone who smelled like private equity and wore cologne made from generational wealth. They were smiling at a vineyard in Napa, her hand on his chest like it never left. The caption? "Sometimes we have to return to what's real." That was it. No goodbye. No conversation. Just erasure. I was scrubbed from her life like a mistake she'd made on impulse. The proposal ring I'd spent months paying off sat in a drawer for 3 weeks before I sold it for half its value. But I didn't cry. Not one tear. I disappeared. Deleted my socials. Quit my job. Moved out of the studio apartment we used to pretend was cozy. Changed my number. Because when someone rips your identity from your chest and throws it back at you, you have 2 choices: bleed out quietly. Or rebuild. Stronger. Smarter. Colder. I chose the second. And while she basked in champagne and old money, I was studying everything about her, her father's business holdings, her philanthropic ventures, her weaknesses. Because Abigail Monroe thought she ended a fling. She didn't realize she created a ghost. And ghosts don't beg to come back. They haunt. People like me don't end up with women like her. Not for long, anyway. I've known that truth since I was a kid, walking home from school in scuffed sneakers while watching town cars glide past the cracked sidewalks of Queens. My name's Daniel Reyes. My mother raised me alone, 3 jobs, no breaks, and a prayer on her lips every time she opened the rent envelope. She taught me that work is the only guarantee a man can hold on to. So, I worked. Studied like my life depended on it, because it did. While other kids spent weekends at the movies, I was running blueprints in the back of my uncle's construction van. I wasn't the smartest in my class, but I learned how to outlast people. How to show up when it counted. I got into City College. I took architecture because it wasn't just about buildings. It was about space, structure, permanence. Control. I guess I wanted to design something no one could take away from me. By 30, I was licensed, working for a mid-tier Manhattan firm. The pay wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. I designed things people needed: hospitals, housing, fire stations. Not sexy, but stable. I had just enough success to make people proud, but not enough to make anyone jealous. And certainly not enough to make me believe I could hold the attention of someone like Abigail Monroe. She entered my life like a sunrise through bulletproof glass. Everything about her said, "You don't belong here," and yet she smiled like I did. We met at an art gallery I was invited to by mistake. My firm's senior partner had food poisoning, and I was the next name on the RSVP list. I didn't know what to wear, what to say, or how to fake the kind of charm those people marinate in from birth. But I saw her across the room, Abigail Monroe, the socialite with a Wall Street bloodline and cheekbones that made photographers stutter. She complimented my blazer. I told her it was from a thrift store. She laughed, not a cruel laugh, but curious. She leaned in, like she wanted to know more. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't just another background extra in someone else's luxury lifestyle. I was center stage. We started seeing each other. Lunches in Midtown, gallery openings, charity events where she whispered biting commentary in my ear about people who'd flown in from Geneva or Milan. She hated most of them. She liked me. Or, maybe, she liked that I wasn't like them. I thought that was a good thing. Abigail said I grounded her. That I was honest, real. That being with me made her feel alive, not just expensive. And God help me, I believed her. But even in her praise, there were shadows. She never introduced me to her father. She always used vague labels when people asked who I was: a friend, a brilliant architect, a refreshing soul. We never took pictures in her apartment, only mine. She never stayed past sunrise. I told myself it was timing. That she was complicated, guarded. I didn't want to spook her. I had this fantasy in my head that if I just kept being good to her, showing up for her, she'd eventually choose me, not as a novelty, but as a partner. We were from different worlds. Her childhood had yachts, mine had eviction notices. Her father built empires, mine disappeared without a trace. I knew I wasn't her equal, not in her eyes, or in the eyes of the people who surrounded her, but I thought love could close the gap. I told myself that even if it started as a chase, I could turn it into something real. Something permanent. I started saving for a ring. Nothing flashy, just something simple, classic. A symbol that I was ready. And then I saw the text. Her phone lit up while she was in the shower. I shouldn't have looked, but something in me, some old reflex from being poor, from always expecting the rug to be pulled, made me peek. Clayton's flying in next weekend. Don't worry, I won't tell him about Danny. That's what her friend texted. Clayton. Her ex. The hedge fund legacy. The man her father always approved of. The one with the last name that came with doors attached. My chest didn't cave in. It calcified. When she came out of the shower, smiling like we were still us, I didn't say a word. I made her breakfast. I kissed her shoulder. I waited. I waited 3 days. Long enough for her to pack for that wellness retreat in Napa. She didn't know I knew. She didn't see the goodbye in my eyes. I watched her leave and felt everything inside me snap into place. Not rage. Not sorrow. Purpose. She chose him. That was fine. But she thought I would stay broken. That I would be just another discarded chapter in her glossy, curated life. That I would crawl back, humiliated and small. But what she didn't know, what no one from her world ever seems to know, is that people like me don't stay broken. We rebuilt. Better. Smarter. Stronger. And more dangerous when we've got nothing left to lose. That was the last morning Abigail Monroe saw the version of me she could play with. The next time she saw me, she begged. I should have known the moment she started talking about closure. Clayton's been reaching out, she said one night, swirling red wine in her glass like it was a script prop. He's changed. We were sitting on her balcony, 27th floor, Upper East Side, everything polished and cold. She said it like she was mentioning an old friend who resurfaced. But her eyes flickered. I played it cool. Nodded. Closure's important. What I didn't say, don't be stupid, Daniel. This is the prelude. What I did, let her lie to me in soft syllables. Let her lull me into a sense of safety with those vanilla-scented lies. 2 weeks passed. She was distant. Her texts became shorter. Our Friday nights shifted from intimate dinners to her needing space. Work, she said. Family issues. I just need time to figure out where I am emotionally. She was figuring out where she wanted to land emotionally, and it wasn't with me. I still remember the last time I saw her in person. I had taken a half day from work to surprise her at her apartment. I carried Thai food and a damn rose in a paper sleeve. Like a romantic idiot. The doorman stopped me. She's not here, he said, avoiding my eyes. I waited outside for 2 hours. She never showed. And when I finally called, she didn't answer. Not until 3 days later. And even then, it wasn't a call. It was a post. A photo. Him. Her. Tuscany. Olive trees in the background, golden hour painting their smiles. She wore the same white dress I once told her made her look like a poem. Her hand clutched his chest like a trophy she'd reclaimed. The caption? Full circle. Sometimes we need to lose ourselves to find who we were meant for. I stared at the screen until my thumb trembled. My body didn't move for 10 minutes. Not even to breathe. I wasn't angry at first. Just hollow. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just stared at the image and realized I had been erased without a single goodbye. She didn't even have the courage to end it. No text. No explanation. No confrontation. Just a photo in Tuscany to inform me I was now a discarded subplot in her fairy tale. It wasn't just betrayal, it was annihilation. I tried to rationalize. Maybe she was confused. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe I missed something. But no, she had chosen. And the more I replayed everything, the clearer it became, she had always been choosing. From the moment we met, I was just a placeholder. A rebellion in tailored discount suits. A man she could use to feel grounded until she was ready to return to her world of yacht clubs and inherited affection. Clayton was never the ex. He was the default. The inevitable. I was the deviation. The palate cleanser. And she never loved me. She loved the way I looked at her, like she was real. Like she was worth something beyond her last name. But when the time came to decide who belonged in her story, she picked the man who fit the scenery. I was in an alleyway. Clayton was a chandelier. And she made her choice. The worst part? No one around me understood. My best friend, Marcus, tried to be supportive. She's just a spoiled rich girl, man. You're better off. But it wasn't that simple. I didn't just lose her. I lost the version of myself I had built around her. She made me feel like I was ascending. Like I was finally becoming someone worthy of attention. I had shaped my identity around that perception. Around the illusion that she saw something rare in me. To be discarded like a forgotten tab on a browser. It was psychological acid. That weekend, I went dark. I turned off my phone. Didn't go to work. I didn't eat much either. I just sat in my apartment, surrounded by architectural blueprints and shattered self-worth. Every moment of silence echoed with her laughter, the way she used to run her fingers through my hair, the way she'd whisper, "You're not like them." I saw it now. I wasn't like them. That was exactly the point. I wasn't a legacy. It was a lesson. A temporary escape. A brief flirtation with normal before she returned to her curated destiny. I remember tearing up the proposal plans I had printed. The restaurant reservation. The monogrammed card I was going to give her. The video I'd made, editing together little clips of our favorite memories. I destroyed it all. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was humiliated. Discarded without ceremony. I walked past her apartment a week later. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to see her. Maybe I wanted to catch a glimpse of how easily she'd moved on. But instead, I saw them together. Her arm in his. Laughter slipped out of her mouth like I never existed. And that's when it hit me. She didn't just erase me. She rewrote me. In her version of the story, I was the mistake. The experiment. The unnecessary detour she had to take to rediscover her path. And for someone like Abigail Monroe, her path was always paved in gold. She never looked back. Not once. That was when something inside me calcified. I didn't want her back. I didn't want closure. I wanted balance. I wanted her to feel the same helplessness she'd made me choke on. I wanted her to know what it was like to be dismissed by someone she underestimated. And more than anything, I wanted to remind her that she had made one fatal miscalculation. She thought I was a man who chased money. But what I really chased was control. And now that I have lost everything, I had nothing left to fear. And nothing left to lose. I didn't want revenge at first. I wanted to forget her. I tried, God, I tried. Moved back to Queens. Picked up double shifts. Said no to drinks with friends because I couldn't trust myself not to bring her up. I deleted her number. Burned the ring receipt. I even stopped listening to jazz, because that's what she played when we cooked together. But grief isn't linear. It festers. It mutates. One night, I saw them again, Abigail and Clayton, in a Forbes feature about modern power couples reshaping philanthropic real estate. My industry. My world. She called Clayton the strategic mind with the heart of a lion. That was when I knew. I couldn't just disappear. I couldn't just move on. No. I had to become someone they'd see. Someone they'd regret losing. Someone they'd fear. I wasn't going to throw bricks at her glass tower. I was going to buy the land beneath it, and quietly make it shake. I started by researching her foundation, the Monroe Urban Revival Trust. It sounded noble. Sustainable housing for low-income communities. The same spaces I had dedicated my career to. But when I dug deeper, it was a facade, a shell company channeling investor money into luxury developments disguised as green projects. Abigail wasn't just playing philanthropy. She was laundering guilt. And the kicker. Her next project was in Brooklyn, just blocks from where I grew up. She was gentrifying my childhood, and calling it charity. That was the crack I needed. I reached out to an old mentor, Miles Denton, a retired architect who once taught me how to design earthquake-resistant foundations. He owed me. I told him I had a private client who needed consultation on substructure integrity. What I didn't tell him was that the client was her, and the goal was sabotage, not support. Next, I created a pseudonym, Daniel Cross. New email. Clean digital footprint. I pitched myself to Monroe Urban Revival as a freelance structural consultant with experience in mixed-income green housing. I backed it with fake portfolios, forged certifications, and testimonials from firms I'd once interned at. They didn't even question it. That's the thing about rich people who play humanitarian, they want to believe in underdogs. It makes them feel evolved. By the second Zoom call, I was speaking directly with Abigail's project lead. By the third, I was on a call with her. She didn't recognize my voice. Or maybe she did, and couldn't place it. I'd changed. The bitterness had turned my tone harder, slower, and surgical. Her name no longer curled on my tongue. It landed sharp and metallic. "I've heard great things, Mr. Cross," she said, flashing the same smile she used to disarm me. "I like working with people who understand what these communities need." I wanted to laugh. But I didn't. I nodded. "I was born in one," I said. For 6 weeks, I embedded myself in her blueprint. I rewrote proposals. Recalibrated load distributions. Quietly suggested small changes that would cost her foundation millions in delays, but couldn't be traced back to me. I introduced eco-friendly materials that had notorious supply chain issues. I rerouted drainage specs in a way that would require emergency adjustments mid-construction. It wasn't illegal. But it was devastating. And precise. Meanwhile, I started publishing under my real name, opinion pieces in niche architecture journals, LinkedIn posts dissecting the ethics of green gentrification. Slowly, my name began resurfacing in the right circles. Her name began showing up in my subtext. People were whispering. Critics were watching. Then came the final phase. I pitched a rival development plan to the city under a real company I formed, Third Rail Designs, backed by a silent investor friend from grad school who owed me more than a few favors. Our bid focused on real sustainability. Real affordability. My old neighborhood. The same district Abigail was targeting. We undercut her proposal by 20%, and promised community ownership shares. The city loved it. The papers picked it up. Local architect challenges billionaire heiress for the soul of Brooklyn. When the article went live, her PR team scrambled. Her name was trending. Not as an icon. As a parasite. That afternoon, she called me. My real phone. I didn't answer. She texted. "Can we talk?" I ignored it. A week later, she sent an email to my public company inbox, no aliases, no assistants. Just her. Subject, Daniel. Please. 3 days passed. Then one line. "I didn't know you had this in you." She was right. Neither did I. But grief taught me strategy. Betrayal taught me silence. And revenge? Revenge taught me patience. You learn a lot when you're invisible. When your name's erased from guest lists, when your calls go unanswered, when even the gate security acts like they've never seen your face, you learn how to listen. How to observe. How to become a shadow. I started small. Quiet. It began with research. Clayton Voss, the man she left me for, wasn't just a hedge fund prince, he was a fraud dressed in Tom Ford. The man played markets like poker tables. Risky. Reckless. Always leveraged, always spinning plates. His real wealth didn't come from genius. It came from illusion. I knew enough from architecture to understand how systems collapse. One wrong pressure point, and the whole damn structure folds. I just had to find his pressure point. So I did what every middle-class kid raised by a working mother knows how to do, I hustled. I took a short-term job with a commercial real estate consultancy firm. On paper, I was helping with structural surveys for high-rise properties, mostly facades for tax write-offs. In reality, I was feeding myself into Clayton's world through the subfloor. He had just launched a new venture fund, Voss Urban Revival, glitzy green developments aimed at revitalizing inner-city neighborhoods. You know, pushing out folks like my mom to build yoga lofts for startup bros. That's where I found it. Clayton's new fund was buying land with borrowed capital based on falsified valuation reports, most of which were rubber-stamped by one firm, Elman & Price. A firm I knew from the inside. I made copies. Quietly. I documented emails, time-stamped reports, recorded whispered conversations at rooftop mixers where men said too much with 2 drinks in hand. Then I reached out to a friend I hadn't spoken to in 5 years, Delilah Raines, a business journalist who once slept on my couch during an unpaid internship. Now, she was a lioness for Bloomberg. I gave her everything. Anonymous tip. All paper trails. Nothing that could trace back to me. And then I waited. But not idle. While the fund began to crack under scrutiny, I turned to Abigail. I didn't want to destroy her financially. That would have been too clean. I wanted her to question everything she built her identity on. Her perception. Her choices. Her loyalty. Her name. So, I played her game. At a gala, 6 months post-disappearance, I returned. Tailored suit. New watch. Fresh cut. I looked like everything she ever wanted me to be. I caught her attention in an instant. She was standing near the bar in a blood-red dress, sipping something clear and cruel. Her eyes widened like she'd seen a ghost. I gave her nothing. Just a nod. Then I walked away. The next week, she reached out. First a, "Hey." Then a, "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. I let her twist. She sent a bouquet of Casablanca lilies to my office. No note. Then, finally, an email. "Daniel, I know I hurt you. But things with Clayton aren't what they seem. I made a mistake. Please let me explain." That's when I replied. Dinner. Friday. Le Miroir. You're buying. She arrived 30 minutes early. I arrived 10 minutes late. She looked nervous. Good. We talked. She laughed a little too loud. Reached for my hand too often. Told me Clayton had changed, cold, distant. Said she missed our conversations. Said she missed me. I nodded. Smiled. Let her believe I still cared. And then I gave her the bait. I told her I was working on a new private housing design project. A competition to get a contract from the city. I said it would need big investors. Fast. Her eyes lit up. Maybe I can help, she said. Perfect. 2 days later, she emailed me a proposal. Said she could set up a meeting with her father. Said she'd bet on me this time. I accepted. The meeting happened. Carter Monroe listened politely as I walked him through schematics I had no intention of building. He asked the right questions. Abigail beamed like we were a team again. It was all theater. Because 5 hours later, Delilah's article dropped. Empire on the edge, Voss Fund implodes amid fraud allegations. Clayton's face was plastered beside balance sheets and whistleblower quotes. Stock plummeted. Investors bailed. Regulatory dogs sank their teeth in. I watched Abigail's world tilt. Slowly. I never sent the article to her. Never called. I just watched. She tried calling me. 10 times. I didn't pick up. Then, 2 days later, she showed up outside my office. Tears. She said Clayton blamed her for introducing him to key investors. That her father had pulled her access to the trust until things blew over. That her name was now whispered like poison in her social circles. Then came the words I'd waited months to hear. Daniel. I was wrong. I chose the wrong man. You always saw me. And I threw it away. Please, please don't walk away from me now. I need you. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I stood up. I walked over. Touched her cheek gently. And whispered. You don't need me. You need someone to forgive you. But I'm not here to make you feel better. I'm here to make you feel everything you made me feel. Then I walked past her. No fireworks. No applause. Just quiet, permanent closure. She cried. I didn't. That night, I went home to my modest condo. Made tea. I turned off my phone. I looked out the window. Revenge didn't taste like I thought it would. It wasn't sweet. It wasn't loud. It was quiet. Like exhaling after years underwater. She had begged me back. But what she didn't know was, the man she was begging, he was already gone. And I liked who I'd become without her. They say revenge doesn't heal you. They're right. But it does wake you up. I don't think Abigail ever really loved me. I think she loved how I made her feel, grounded, different, rebellious. To her, I was a detour from her world. To me, she was the whole damn destination. But I'm not angry anymore. That part of me, burned out the moment she showed up in my office last week, tears in her eyes, shaking hands, asking if we could talk. She sat across from me like a stranger, no makeup, hair tied back, vulnerability stitched into her silence. She said Clayton left her. Said he cheated. That everything she'd given up, everything she thought was real, unraveled in front of her. And now she couldn't stop thinking about me. About us. I didn't laugh. I didn't rage. I just listened. Because that's the cruelest kindness you can offer someone who once dismissed your heart. Let them speak, let them pour, let them beg, and give them nothing in return. I miss who I was when I was with you, she said. And there it was. The final truth. She didn't miss me. She missed the mirror I held up. The version of herself she liked better than the one Clayton left behind. I told her I was happy she came. I was glad she finally found the honesty she was always running from. But that I didn't need to be anyone's mirror anymore. That I wasn't her safe place. Not anymore. Then I stood, shook her hand like a business partner, and walked her out. I don't know what hurt more, her silence as she left, or the fact that I didn't feel anything watching her go. But maybe that's what healing looks like. Not fireworks. Just peace. Now, I've started my own firm. Small team. Our office is in a converted loft in Brooklyn. We work with nonprofits, redesigning low-income housing with dignity in mind. I've hired 3 interns from underrepresented backgrounds, kids who remind me of me, just needing a foot in the door. Mom still calls every Sunday. She asks if I'm sleeping. I tell her yes, and this time, it's actually true. I don't chase anymore. Not women. Not money. Not validation. I build. Not just structures, but a life with boundaries, purpose, and a quiet kind of pride that doesn't need anyone else's permission. Sometimes I walk past the gallery where I met Abigail. It's just a building now. Just lights and glass. She doesn't live in my head anymore. I kept the ring I bought for her once. Not because I still care, but because it reminds me of who I used to be, and how far I've come. There's power in that. In surviving without closure. In building your own. People think revenge is fire. Flash. Noise. But the best revenge? It's the silence that comes after. When your world is intact. When you've moved on, and they're still trapped in the moment they lost you. So no, I didn't burn her world down. I didn't need to. She set the match herself. And I just walked away. untouched by the flames.